right now we as people are facing an epidemic, and a lot of us know it, but we don't know what to do about it. A year ago, I walked into a men's health clinic and I wanted to get my blood work done. I had been training for 8 years at this point. I had injured my leg like a month before this, and I wanted to see where I was at because my training didn't feel the same that it did at 28 years old compared to even 2 years ago at 26. I felt like at 25, 26, I could do things that I could no longer really do from a training and recovery standpoint. To my surprise, when I got that blood work done and I got my test results back, my free test was pretty low. I forget the exact number, but my overall test was also like at 300 nanograms, which is on the lower end. They say about 400 is probably average or normal. And the first question I asked was like, well, why is it low? Like, I'm 28. I work out. I do proper things. Like, I sleep. I don't know. And I thought, well, my life has changed a little bit. And with being injured now, I was like, well, what are my options? And what she had suggested was essentially like that there wasn't a whole lot of options. Of course, the two options were basically like get on TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, take steroids at that point, or the other alternative that was presented was like, well, or you could take peptides and performance enhancing drugs, PEDs, basically. Just no way. I just thought to myself, like, there's no way that this is just it. Like, hey, your testosterone's in the dump. I asked that question, why is it so low? And it's like, well, your cell phone in your pocket and like the processed foods that we eat now and simple things like there's all sorts of things that can affect your hormones. Sleep being the number one thing for sure. And of course, having the family, that was harder. Stupid little things like grabbing the receipt paper that they hand you that has BPAs on it or whatever. Or that you hear the food you eat is ultra processed food and that's killing your hormones, and, you know, microplastics and microwaving your food. It's like drinking out of plastic water bottles, and it's like, oh my god, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm supposed to live my life in a way that's just like outside of any of our norm, any of our convenience, because it's at the expense of my health. Like, this is such a shitty spot to be in. And while most of these things probably exist to some level, I don't know how big of a factor that actually is, but it did feel like I was now put in this situation and faced with this decision where it's like, well, what do I do, right? And the obvious choice, I think, for most people is just to say, screw it, and like, I'm just going to take steroids, and I didn't want to do that. And so I started digging into it, and I thought, there's no way this can be the only reality. There's just no way that I'm 28 years old, my testosterone's the lowest it's probably ever been, and I'm just stuck with this, and I got to live with this until I'm, 50, 60, 70? Like, and I'm just going to suffer because of it? And so what I did was I started doing some digging, and I found out that the primary things that you can do in your everyday life is to cut out some of what I mentioned, you know, opt for drinking non-plastic, you know, to never grab a receipt, silly little things that maybe don't make that big of a difference. But the biggest factor that was going to affect your hormones and your blood work and how you function and how you operate was your sleep and your diet. And little things within your diet, little specifics like eating onions can boost testosterone a little bit. Of course, they do make some supplements as well. There's all sorts of different sort of testosterone boosting supplements, some of which I did try that I felt like didn't really make a big difference. Even if it was helping, it was like, you know, you're boosting your testosterone by like 50 nanograms. Like, you're never naturally boosting your testosterone. I shouldn't say never, but from 400 to like 1,000, it's just not happening. So we're talking, you know, a few points, 50 points here and there. So I looked at my life and I analyzed it, and I felt like, well, I was doing most of these things right. The sleep is hard to control with the family and the kids and the pets and whatever. But I felt kind of trapped. Like, this was such a shitty spot to be in. What you have to do is take control back of your life a little bit. The best things you can do to increase your natural testosterone are going to be strength training, heavy, hard strength style workouts, whether that's body weight or lifting your weight or any type of resistance that's really demanding on your body, getting you stronger. Optimizing your sleep recovery, that's going to balance out your hormones. Making sure that you don't have any like vitamin deficiencies. B12, D is a big one. Those will affect your mood, can affect some of your hormone levels and how you feel. And your diet. If you guys are eating junk, ultra processed junk food all the time, then you are going to suffer and struggle a little bit. There's so many of you out there who are in a similar position who don't know what to do or where to go or how to do this. And I've seen so many people who I know who are 23, 24, maybe even younger, 19, who are just taking TRT without any thought process behind it because they were told to do so, because they were told that their testosterone was low. And the one thing that I'm so happy that I didn't do was just take TRT because I had one low test result and then was told to do so without trying to clean up or fix my life and do the things that I need to do to actually improve my function and hormone levels naturally. And so I'm so grateful that I didn't just jump straight into that. But what I would say to you is, like, at this point, don't make the mistake of thinking that you're just screwed. And if push comes to shove, you guys can always try different things. Something might work better for you than it would for me. There might be a super primary cause or reason for you being lower on testosterone or something, but I would advocate for, if you haven't looked at your sleep, if you haven't looked at your diet, and you haven't looked at your training, and you haven't ruled out any of those as the primary factors or causes, that's where you need to start. That's what you need to look at and clean up and fix first and try to get yourself back on track naturally before you ever even consider doing something like PEDs, steroids, or anything. In a world where we're forced into these situations where we have to adapt and change from the normal of our life, it's up to us to control where we kind of go with it.